Hello and welcome to Parveen Smith's Celestial on 15th of August 2014. At this moment in time I'm going to be sharing with you something that happened just at the weekend, last weekend, and it was all about the biggest supermoon of the year, when the moon is closer to the earth and it's perfectly aligned with the sun and the earth, which has a much greater impact on our psyches, and that's the prediction that was given about our emotions and spirits. It's also an amazing full moon for breaking out the stagnation, which is what a lot of people felt with the releasing of the old buried emotional patterns. And Uranus and Saturn are very much involved in this picture. Saturn in Scorpio is forming a square to both the sun and the moon, creating a certain amount of pressure to face fears and delve into your psyches. Uranus is forming a harmonious aspect of the two luminaries, helping us to release us from the emotional ruts and break free of any habits or emotional patterns that many of us are being prevented from us standing in our own truth. So this Aquarius full moon, which happened just last weekend, is something that I'd like to share with you. Some of you have been asking about this, and thank you to Amy Bird, my astrologist, for giving this information as well. I can look at sharing with you that the full moon represents the moments when the sun and the moon stand exactly opposite each other in the heavens, and this is the month when the sun is in a playful and expressive mood, and Leo is also, whilst in the moon, is reaching its peak in idealistic, rebellious and progressive Aquarius. While the sun is in Leo, we are encouraged to express our unique talents and let our own inner child roam free, and I think this is a playfulness and fun-loving individual that we're going to see emerging. And for me too, this has been happening over the last few days, just seeing so much inner child stuff coming out, not just for myself personally, but for my elders. And it's an ideal time to really get in touch with the creative spark as well, and a true essence of spirit. And Leo is really ruled by the sun and urges us to find what brings us the most joy and let our light shine outwardly and brightly, whereas Aquarius wants everyone to use their unique talents for the good of the group and indeed humanity. He is truly the visionary, for he can see a better way of doing things, a brotherhood of man with one of all and all for one, and he is a conventional non-conformist who thinks outside of the box and puts the needs of the group before his own. So when Leo is very much ruled by the heart and easily forms attachments, Aquarius is not attached and is quite hard to pin down on any emotional level. So Leo expresses from the heart, while Aquarius thinks in more of an abstract term. While Leo represents royalty and encourages us to find our own inner queen or king, and Aquarius stands for the common man and envisions a world where nobody has ever had the upper hand. And during this full moon, we are encouraged to find a balance between the two signs. So see how you find that. Is it going to be an easy one or not? We're also looking at what is the vision for the future. What do we hold as a vision for the future that truly comes from our heart? And how can we practice non-attachment in a heartfelt way? And this is always something really interesting, and I think it is possible. I've been practicing this for a little bit, I would say, over the last 8 years or so, and it's been passionate and compassionate about what you believe in, but also stepping back. And sometimes some people will find this really, really hard to do. We can love our own children, our friends and family to the dearest place, but sometimes we need to just stand back just that tiny little bit as well. So how can we have our own needs met in a way that also serves a group or humanity, and how can we honour that and embody that our own special and unique self as well, to be of a better service to others? And I think it can be done, but it's not the easiest task, as many of us on this spiritual path may have noticed. But even if we're in the business world, people will find this not so easy as well. As Aquarius reminds us not to be afraid to stand out, and Leo reminds us that we are all special, and I've been speaking about this just yesterday evening as well. And between the two of them, they are asking us to consider, what is it that sets us apart and fully embraces it so that we can serve humanity in a better way? So that phrase keeps coming up, how can we serve humanity in a better place? And really what we're looking at is, it's interesting that both Saturn and Uranus are forming this aspect to the sun and the moon. And when Amy sort of looked at the chart, she said she could definitely see Saturn in Scorpio bearing down on the sun and the moon, and creating an enormous amount of pressure to look at our fears and vulnerabilities and face up to the parts of ourselves which we may usually prefer to push away, very far away, maybe into the shadows of the proverbial closet. And we may have even had to delve into some pretty deep, dark places within ourselves, and any old buried trauma, guilt and regret, shame or blame could even be coming up to the surface and demanding a release. And I'm sure we've all been through that at some point in our lives, but especially at this time, it's sort of playing quite a big part. So this is a beautiful thing about pain, isn't it? That painful as it could potentially be, Saturn could shine a rather harsh light into the deepest parts of our psyches, forcing us to face up to the reality of what still holds us back from what we seek. Leo wants us to shine and live from our hearts, and Aquarius dreams for a better future, while Saturn in Scorpio reminds us that we might still have some work to do before either is possible, and he forces us to be utterly truthful about ourselves and our feelings, and this full moon really does provide us with an amazing opportunity to face some demons head on and banish them forever. So Uranus in Aries is here to help the process. The Great Awakener wants us to be utterly true to ourselves and will help us to break through any barriers which might be preventing us from standing in our truth. He demands us that we are utterly authentic, not what we think other people want us to be. He will blast through any cobwebs and break us out of the emotional ruts that we may have been, and helping us to reprogram our own emotional patterns. He forces us to come out of our comfort zone, and this is what we're looking at, helping us to look at ourselves on a different sort of perspective altogether. And Mercury is also sitting right next to the Sun in Leo, helping us to communicate from our hearts. And Uranus is also looking at the aspects of looking at the opportunities from a bird's eye perspective, which can also be very valuable to all of us, I'm sure indeed. Saturn is also forming a square to Mercury, challenging us to really get to the heart of the matter and express what we truly feel. And he demands it emotionally and honestly, as painful and as hard as it is to hear. As it may be, but he forces us to be realistic rather than idealistic. So it seems that the combination of Saturn and Uranus could really help us to be in our own vulnerabilities during this moon, and it is going to be looking at utterly being truthful to how we can actually feel ourselves deep inside. And Uranus wants us to be true to ourselves, while Saturn wants us to delve to the deepest of our truest feelings. So this is what Amy Bird has been sharing with us on this particular day of this full moon. And some pretty illusions may well be shattered as Uranus and Saturn awaken us to some cold, hard facts. Aquarius may have a vision of our potential future, but it seems that we will have to face up to everything and anything that might be holding us back from actually achieving our hopes and dreams. And Saturn is providing us with a giant emotional reality check, which we sometimes do need. And I like to have my reality checks, believe me. And I'm quite a reflective person and like to be on that level so that I can see where I'm going. And if I've made any mistakes, how can I put them right? Or what am I actually doing? Does it work for me or not? We can also probably say that thankfully Chiron, the wounded healer, is forming a harmonious aspect to Saturn during this moon, that we are actually seeing fading away to heal whatever comes up at this time as well, allowing us to be in a compassion and forgiveness to help us along this process. So bear this in mind, everybody, as we are now looking at further things happening as well, which we will keep you updated and informed here on Parveen Smith Celestial. So that was your Aquarius full moon that's been taking place since last Sunday, and some of you may still be feeling the energies of this even up till today. So now I'm going to be looking at sharing with you a piece of poetry that I feel is inspiring, and this is from Poetry for the Spirit, edited by Alan Jacobs, our wonderful 84-year-old gentleman who's been taking some wonderful shows with me previously on Celestial Radio. So as I look at sharing more with you here, I'm going to say that I'm going to give you a little bit about Rabindranath Tagore's piece of writing here. He says, "Bathe my whole being and lave my nerves. I am alive. This message of welcome rustles in the forest leaves. Let me hear it. Let the morning wrap in her veil as she wraps the green earth decked in a tender grass. The love that I received in my life, her silent voice I hear in the sky. In the wind, in her pure waters, I take my ablution and see life's truth sparkling like a gem in the heart of the blue. So here is a beautiful piece of understanding about our planet, our Earth, which is what I'm speaking to you about on an astrological sort of level, but also on this physical level as well, as the beautiful sunshine continues to shine as always. And we are going through this late summer changes, I say now, and it's all about, you know, we've been noticing, and I personally have been noticing, it's time for changes and the new things are coming in. So thank you for listening in to me today, Parveen Smith Celestial. More coming up as usual every single day if I possibly can.